Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Modsauce. We are not on the Hermitcraft server right now, we are actually in my test world. I started this thing up in the last episode. If you remember, we built a cow breeder and I came over here just to make things easy for myself to play around with all the different blocks and try and build a contraption, which we successfully did last episode. So what you see right here is pretty much all there is in my test world, and what I wanted to do is build another contraption that I had an idea for. And I wanted to do that in between episodes. However, I realised what I was doing right here might be interesting to a lot of you, so I thought I'd come on here and record it. So many of you, like me, are probably new to the mods, and if you're not, this might be interesting as well. But what I'm trying to do is create a little contraption, and I'm approaching it with the vanilla mindset because I know the vanilla game inside out, and so that's the way my mind kind of works with this game. And so I'm trying to build a little contraption, and all of these things from the mods are making it interesting, you know, being able to compact and do different things with it. And I thought that what I'd do is just show you through, you know, the little process of creating that. So the contraption that we're trying to make is a 1 wide, and that's important because I want to tile these side by side. And I've just thought of a problem for that actually. Yeah, we'll come back to that problem in a moment. Anyway, I want this thing to be 1 wide. And I want it to be a farm for different crops, and I think I might actually have some in my inventory. I'm not sure if these are actually plantable, but you should be able to put them on the fertilized dirt. Maybe not, because that's a dirt block and not... Okay, another problem right there. I thought this was going to act like farmland, but maybe it doesn't. I sort of jumped the gun there. Anyway, we'll have farmland here. We've got a piston to push it up and down, and this is basically going to be like a vanilla farm where you grow it with bone meal. However, with these autonomous activators, we're going to be able to plant them as well. So what I want to have here is a fully automated system where you hit a switch and this thing fires up and it starts planting down the crops, bone mealing them and harvesting them, and then when you flick off the switch it is going to stop. So the reason I want to have them side by side is just because it adds another little challenge, and we can have a whole row of these, and every 1 wide segment of this farm can be for a different crop. Now I mentioned a problem with that. If we have 2 of them side by side running at the same time, it's quite likely this vacuum hopper here is going to pick up something from the one next to it. So it might be a rule of use for us that we only use 1 of these at a time. But anyway, I have gone through a little bit of the design process so far, and there's actually a little bit more to talk about with this contraption. I want the items to be picked up automatically and be sent back into the system, like our storage system, which we're going to build in the future, and also for this thing to be able to pull out of that system as well. And I'm getting a little ahead of myself there because we don't have the storage system set up, but that's something to keep in mind with the top part up there. So down the bottom here, I have a really cool 1 wide clock that you can tile next to another one that does that. And an important thing to notice here is that this is extended more than it is not extended. What would that be? Retracted? I don't know, I forget the word for that. So to actually reach this bit right here, I had to go through a lot of designing because there is a problem with the way it works in vanilla, and that is that you have redstone here. Whenever you want to transfer a signal downwards, unless you build something really big and tedious, which I'm not sure there even is a way, but you usually have to use redstone. So if you wanted to use a torch or something like that, it becomes really difficult to transfer the signal downwards. In fact, one way you could do it would be with a comparator at the bottom and a piston and cauldron to extend down, but I've tried to avoid using a piston for that here. So I instantly decided to look into the mods at all the different things that we could use, and one of the things I was looking at is this red alloy wire, which is like redstone wire, and the insulation that goes with it. Now the insulation kind of blocks it off from connecting with anything. Like you can see here, the white doesn't connect to the orange, which was a little unfortunate because what I was thinking we could do here is, this isn't set up quite right for it, but if you put the red alloy over the bricks like that, if we could put these side by side, then they'd be useful. However, you can see they connect to one another, and when you put them like this, they don't actually get powered by whatever, you know, puts the signal into it. Can you see there that the wire isn't red? If we then grab some regular wire, alloy wire, and put that over here, and that needs a power source as well. Let's put it on that block. If we look under here, you can see that that bit is now red. So that was a little bit of a problem. I thought that might be able to help us put this side by side and make it tileable, but unfortunately it didn't. So I started looking at some of the stuff from Project Red. We've got a timer over here which you think would be perfect because it puts out a signal every so often, and then all we need to do is to invert that, and then we get, you know, exactly what we need for powering the piston. Of course we can put a repeater in front of that as well. The problem here is when you put them side by side, they basically stop working because they have functions for inputs on the side as well. So if I put that here, you can see the other ones have a little bit of trouble working. Yeah, 2 of them won't work now. And so we couldn't use that. And then I found out that this thing has a repeater as well. You can see here 1 tick, 2, then it goes up to 4, 8, 16, 32, 64 and 128. Oh, and even 256. That is absolutely ridiculous amount of ticks, but that's very useful. Of course, you can compact large delays within that. So over here, what we've done is we've used the pulsar, which I'm pretty sure, or pulse former, I showed you last episode with the cow breeder. So our power is going to go into that. It's going to create a 1 tick pulse. We then use this piston, this repeater on the 2 ticks to extend that, because with a 1 tick pulse, this thing isn't going to work properly, and then we have another 2 tick delay coming back into it. So it creates, I think, a 6 tick clock like that, and that does exactly what we want it to. So what we'll probably do in the future is make this block right here a wireless redstone block, and then we can activate that somewhere else and it will turn on the clock. And we'll also then need that to turn on something else here for the rest of this. So what I'm struggling with at the moment is the logic for how we're going to plant down the saplings, how we're going to grow them with bone meal, and how we're going to feed in the items into these things and also pick them up and send them back out again. Because like I said, what I'd like to do here is be able to create it so we hit a switch somewhere else and then it's going to send the items into the system, the bone meal and the seed type or whatever it is we need to grow our crops, and then we want to bring them out again, you know, separate them, filter them and put them back into our main storage system, which I haven't even built yet. So it's going to be quite the challenge. We're going to try and make it all one wide, and that's what I've done so far. I just wanted to walk you through all of that. Hopefully learning about some of these different things has been useful to you, but I'm going to crack on and see where I can get with this. So next up, I've been dealing with the logic of moving the items in and out of this farm, and I was struggling with it a little bit because I made an assumption that these transfer nodes would send items to a full inventory, so I decided to test it. That turns out to not be true. So attached to this chest at the bottom, we're going to have our vacuum hopper. That's then going to transfer the items with this transfer node into the autonomous activator or the ender IO. I think that's what it's called. It's an ender chest here. No, it's just called Ender Storage. I don't know where I got Ender IO. I think that's a different mod in the pack. By the way, these Ender chests, they work with hoppers and transfer nodes, and you can configure these with different colours on each of these different things at the top. I think you just need to right click on them with a dye or a coloured wall or something like that. And so you can have a lot of different Ender chests, and then you can hook them up to, hoppers and automate the storage and stuff. So we're going to be able to use that to transfer our items across long distances or into our storage system. So anyway, this transfer node is going to move whatever items are in this chest, and although I've got raw beef in here, I don't know why I decided to put all of that in, but let's say we're growing potatoes. We've got all of our potatoes in here. If this is full, then this thing is just going to send it in the other direction. Now the way the transfer node works is it searches for inventories, and I'm not sure if it goes to the closest place first before going off to the other side, but that could be a problem if it always goes to one side first. So that's something we've got to keep in mind when testing. That could be directional based when we build it as well, but my thinking at the moment is that if this is right next to it and this one is a few blocks further away, then hopefully it will go to that one. So whether this is going to grow with seeds or potatoes, you know, one of the items that we're farming that is its own seeds, it should go into there first. That means this should always be full, and then it goes into the ender chest second. Anything else that drops, like if we're growing wheat, we want to put seeds in here, and the wheat will simply go up into the ender chest. So at the other ender chest, we're going to be able to take out the items that come through from our farm, and we're also going to be able to put bone meal into this chest. So if we're putting bone meal into it and taking out the other items, then over here there's going to be bone meal in this while the other items are being removed that this transfer node at the top can take out. So we'd put a filter up here for bone meal, and then that would bring the bone meal to the autonomous activator at the top. Now one of the things that I want to do that I've forgotten about completely is make these turn on with the clock down the bottom as well. So I do want them to only turn on when we're actually going to use it, and that is going to make the wiring here a little bit tricky. However, there's a block space right here that we could just put a wireless redstone block on, and we can set it to the same frequency as the one that's going to turn on the clock at the bottom. So that might be the system that works, and all of that should be tileable. We're going to have a little bit of trouble with these cables connecting, but what we can do is put those cover blocks between them, or panels, I forget what they're called actually, the micro blocks where we chop them down and they become like a panel on the side. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. But there we go. That I think is going to work. I'm pretty sure I've forgotten about some other sort of thing this is supposed to have, or a logic. Oh yes, we do need to turn this to tilled soil. Yeah, that's right, and then put some water in here as well. But we are getting close. I'm going to start, building this thing up, testing it a little bit, and see where it goes. So it turns out that the fertilized dirt can be tilled, and when you do that, it doesn't need any water as well, which is awesome. So that works with our farm. As well as this, I've also found out the autonomous activators can be set to first slot only, so they're only going to use items out of here. That means the rest of this is basically an item filter, and the same thing on this side and at the top as well. So we have less of our items inside the machine when it's not being used, which is a good thing. And as well as that, I'm not sure there's too much else that I've done here. When I was testing, all of the items were disappearing out of my ender chest, and the reason why is because I left this thing over here and they were going into here, which was a little bit confusing at first. So I should probably break that off and put the bone meal into here. And then these things are probably full at the moment. Yeah, they're going to hold the bone meal until they find somewhere to put it, which is cool. That means there's not too much of the stuff getting backed up. But anyway, let's activate this thing. Something very strange is about to happen. You will see here that this is the transmitter for 0. 0 is on this side, 1 is on the other side. So if we hit the switch for 0, obviously what's going to happen is the side with 1 is going to activate, and when we hit this one over here, it's obviously going to be the side with 0. I have no idea why they are swapped around, but as you can see, this thing does work. And one thing to note here, I guess, is that it's pretty slow. I had to put the ticks down here to 32, and that's because of the speed of the autonomous activators. They do actually run very slow because they do a lot of things. So if we were to change the top one to dispensers, we could speed up the growth of this, which means we could have it run a little bit faster. Also, we've got 2 of these running side by side. I said that might be a thing not to do because I doubt we're going to see it because it's going to be very fast. Okay, we can see we're actually picking up seeds from the other side. At least we saw it that time. We might be picking up carrots only on this side as well. And my concern here is that if it picks up one from the other side too often, then the amount of seeds or carrots in our autonomous activators might go down. But hopefully that's not going to be a problem. So we've got this strange bug with the wireless receiver. You can see we put a load of covers in between as well to stop the pipes connecting. That was kind of a pain. It would be nice if you could colour the pipes or do something like that so they stay separated, but things are coming along. I run into another little problem down here. You see these blocks, all they do is output redstone. They don't input it or kind of react to it. Let's grab a repeater. Actually, that's not a repeater, is it? And you'll see, does it pull out power? Oh, now I need something else to show that. Let's put down a block there, and then that thing should turn off. Yeah, so it pulls out power, but you can't kind of invert this, or you can't even put torches onto it. And it's been really difficult to kind of integrate this into this circuit down here, because wherever I put it, it doesn't really interact with the circuit. And the only way we can make this work, if we have this back here, and then we have a repeater pull the signal out of it. Well, I made a complete mess up of that wiring there, but this is just what I'm trying to show you. I probably could make this a tiny bit more compact, but you can see this is what we're dealing with right here. Obviously, we're going to have to use repeaters because we can't put the redstone side by side, but trying to fit this thing in as an override for our piston clock is a little bit problematic at the moment. So if we turn this thing off, then what it's going to do is power this block permanently. So this thing is just going to stop, and then when we turn it back on, the torch is going to be unpowered, and then it's just going to start the clock off again. So there is a way to do it. It's just really like big at the moment, and we need to find a way to compact this down. But like I said, the issue here is that this thing can't be inverted, and you can't put torches on it or something like that. So it makes it kind of awkward. So I have a solution. At the back here we can place down a NOT gate, which is kind of like a redstone torch. It's going to invert the signal. So if it's powered at the back, then it's not going to output a signal, but at the moment it is, as you can see. And it's got outputs on all sides, which means they're not inputs, and we can tile them next to each other without them interfering with one another, which is pretty cool. So we got them tiled at the back there like that. That solves that problem. And now I was just looking at the vacuum hopper and thinking about making it so it puts the items directly into the autonomous activator up above, because we could obviously leave seeds in the first slot and use the other ones to store the other items, and they won't get used because of this. However, when we take items out with their transfer node, I don't think we can really specify that it needs to leave some of the seeds in there, so that would obviously become a problem, because we do want to keep some of the overflow that we get from the seeds. So I'm having some issues with the NOT gate over here, and cool little tip for you: if you shift click with a screwdriver you can change the outputs like that, which is pretty cool. But when we go and activate this thing, for some reason the output becomes an input, or an input that isn't registered, and when this block is powered it seems like the signal is coming back into the NOT gate, which basically renders it useless. Although it does kind of make sense, if it's not outputting anything, then why would it stop this block from being powered? So anyway, what I've done is I moved it down to the bottom here, and now when we turn this thing off, it is then going to output power, and it's going to keep this torch off, so then it turns off, which is good. Now you can hear a clicking noise. That's because I've put some of these redstone clocks and dispensers at the top here, and my thinking was that this will be a little bit faster, but let's remove those because that clicking sound is annoying. So we would need more bone meal in this dispenser as well, which would be one downside. But the other problem is, if we're going to use this thing, we also need to be able to turn it on and off, and I can't really think of a way of doing that without increasing the size of all of this. And as well as that, you can see this thing's been moved back, so the alloy just goes onto this block right here, because otherwise it's going to power the dispenser and then this isn't going to do anything to it. So at this point I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, whatever we do here, things are going to get complicated and messy, and I think what would be smart to do is actually go back to having that there and having two of these autonomous activators. So it will be slower overall, but then we would have successfully built ourselves a nice little system using some of the stuff in the in the mods. And some of you might be saying, oh, but there's this mod where you put down this one block and it will harvest all of the stuff in a circle around it. Well, that may be so, but that is not fun. I have had a lot of fun putting this little contraption here together, and it's been enjoyable, but I don't think we're quite finished here. I do want to just look over this a little bit more, see if I can maybe compact it or improve some things further, because this bit down the bottom here does feel a little bit bulky for what it does. So I've been looking at this for a while now, and do you know what? I think we're actually done. I think this is going to work. The only thing I feel could be a little bit smaller is this bit right here. I'm sure there's going to be a more compact way to do that. Maybe with some of the other stuff in the mods that I don't have knowledge of, it would be possible. So where I'm at right now, I'm thinking, well, let's go on to Hermitcraft and build this then. That was the plan today. But I'm thinking about the amount of materials this is going to cost. It will take a little bit of time to implement, but we won't be able to use it straight away because I don't have a supply of bone meal. So I think what I'm actually going to be doing in the next episode is working on that. And that means building more farms with spawners. I've got loads of skeleton spawners, so that shouldn't be a problem. And then after we've done that, we should be in a good position to build this right here. So in between that time, you guys can give me some feedback, some ideas. Leave a comment down below if there's anything here you think could be compacted. In fact, I'm just going to stand back, side on view, F1. You can pause the video and then perhaps recreate that yourselves and play around and see if you can compact it. But that is the idea right there. And then what we'll have is a load of these in a row, and then we can just activate them with our wireless transmitters. Now, one thing I wanted to do was make this visible, and a lot of you might have been thinking, why don't you put a piston here to destroy the crops and activate that with something different? Well, it's because I want to have some glass going across the front here. Let's just search that quickly so we can see what it looks like. Well, it's not going to make a big difference, is it? But somewhere in the base, I want to be able to walk by something and see all of these in a row, and I think it's going to look really cool, and that's why I've left the front space there free. So, if you enjoyed the video, please do leave a like, it will always be appreciated. Remember to leave a comment if you have some feedback on this design. We will be building it on Modsauce soon, but that is it from me this video. So as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you next time.